For this assignment, we're going to look at the geometry of Islamic art and architecture, as well as a little bit of the history of stained glass art. So stained glass has been made for over 1,000 years, and what they do is when they're making their glass, they add different minerals and metallic salts and things that are going to change the color of the glass. Because I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but like when lightning strikes the beach, that sand turns to glass, because when sand is heated up, it changes its composition. And so what stained glass artists do is they add other things to the composition to change what the glass looks like. And so they figure out what design that they want, they lay it all down, and then they, depending on how they're doing it, they might put it in like an actual window frame, or it could be like a picture frame kind of a thing. But it takes lots of patience, and you have to be very careful because glass, as you know, is very fragile. Now for this, we are mainly going to be looking at the Islamic stained glass that you can see in some of these pictures and in the videos that I've shown you for a little bit more history of this. So as you can see, there's lots of geometric artwork going on here. A lot of radial balance, some beautiful colors. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to make our own stained glass influenced by this type of artwork. All right, so you should have gotten a sheet that looks like this. And don't forget to put your name at the top if you're doing this in the classroom. But I have given you a circle, a square, and I've broken that circle up. You do not have to use every single line. They are mainly just there to help you to figure out your design. So hopefully you've looked at some of the designs already and you kind of maybe have an idea of where you're going. Here are a couple that I've done in previous years with other kiddos. So like this one's way more complex. And so you're going to kind of start at the center and work your way out. And I like to think, do you want to start with a circle? Do you want to start with a star? That is up to you. I think I'm going to start by going back and forth on my lines. And remember, you're going to try to get this same amount of space here. So you might need to use a ruler. Okay? So if I look, I am a little less, I'm about 3/4 of an inch there. So I need to make sure that I'm about 3/4 of an inch all the way around. And then same with this space right here. I need to make sure I'm going, looks like I'm about 1/2 an inch from the center. So I would make little marks all the way around at 1/2 an inch. So if yours ends up going like way out here and it's not very radially symmetric, like we've talked about in class before, you're gonna wanna measure. But I am thinking that I'm doing pretty good here. It's looking pretty balanced. I might measure that again later, okay? And then you're just gonna keep adding. Do not go beyond this box because we don't want our pattern to be too big because we need it to be able to, we're gonna repeat it a bunch of times on our paper. All right, so as you can see, I finished, and I really suggest that you have it touch the edges somewhere. That's just gonna make your life about 30 times easier when it comes to actually tracing. And then especially if you're using tracing paper and not the transparency, you are going to need to trace everything with black so that it really shows up and that you don't accidentally start tracing the wrong lines. Because on the transparency, we are going to be using permanent marker right away, and permanent marker is permanent, so we won't be able to erase like we can with pencil. So I highly suggest that you trace the stuff that you are going to want to keep. Okay, like for example, these little lines inside my star, I'm not keeping those, so I'm not tracing them. All right, so I have finished tracing, and now I need to move on to my actual sheet. So if you are working on this at home, you got a transparency and you got a piece of tracing paper. If you don't have permanent markers that you can use at home, the tracing paper is going to work better for you. So it works just like the transparency, except that you can color on this with a normal marker. Okay, But if you have permanent markers at home in lots of different colors and whatnot, you can use the transparency like we're using in the classroom. So you're just going to line it up because we need one to start with, and the easiest one is the one that lines up exactly with the paper. And then you have to be very, very careful, okay? So you are just tracing all of your black marks. Be careful because it's going to take a moment to dry. So if you try to like go over it or accidentally rub up against it with your hand, it might smear, and that's not good. We don't want it to smear. Okay, so you might have to turn your paper as you work. You might have to like leave a spot and then come back if you can't get it to work without resting your hand on that spot. It should take a little bit of time, but it's not going to take like hours and hours and hours to dry. So just keep going until you've traced the whole thing. Okay, so I am going to pick this up to see if I've traced everything, and you're going to notice right away if you missed anything because you won't have lines where you should have lines. So like a lot of times people will miss just like one line, and the moment you pick it up you notice. But now here is where it touching the edge is helpful because I can just line it up like this, whereas if it didn't touch the edge anywhere, it'd be difficult for me. But I'm just going to line it up, and it looks like I'm a little crooked on this line, so I'm just going to kind of wing that spot, okay? And make sure that it's kind of like lined up with the straight along the top and the bottom too. That'll make your life easier. But you are just going to keep tracing until your whole page is full. All right, so you can see I repeated the pattern a few times. I didn't finish the whole thing because I don't need to for this next step. You do though. But you'll notice I did smear it a little bit here. So if you smear a little bit, that's fine. But if you like across the whole paper, that's going to cause problems. Now we need to color, okay? And this is going to get tricky because that black, if you hit it with another marker, your black could smear, just like it does with normal markers, okay? So we need 5 colors, and so you can just pick any old 5 colors. Hopefully you've got 5. If you don't, you might need to be doing this on the transparent paper, tracing paper instead. So you're just gonna pick your first color, and you're just gonna get started. So I think I'm going to do this section right here. And what I'm going to do so that I make sure that I don't end up accidentally coloring on my black is I'm going to kind of trace around the outside like this, and then I'm going to color the inside. Because if I don't do that, I am going to run the risk of running right into that black and smearing it everywhere. Now, you'll notice that I'm going back over it like that. That's just to kind of help smooth out my lines. So if I'm looking at this and I colored this here, this one, I need to also color this one here, that exact same one, because that's the same spot on the others. Okay? So you can't just put colors down willy-nilly wherever you want. And you'll notice I have my paper underneath. That really helps because it makes it so much easier to see. If you want to use a different piece of paper, that's fine. But your sketch paper works perfectly for this. Then I'm just going to go back over like that. All right, so I can't really get in here. I can kind of do like a little baby right there off the edge, and then little baby. And I'm also going to do this part right here too, just because I like that balance aspect of it. Okay, so I'll also have to do up here and there and there, and then I will move on to my next color. It's a lot easier to do sections at a time instead of like jumping all over the place. Or what some kiddos will do is they'll do one pattern at a time and then move to the next one. That way you don't accidentally put, I forgot to trace around the outside, the wrong color in the wrong spot. And so I'm checking every so often that I'm not accidentally moving my red around the page with my hand. So I would come up here and do this section, and we're totally pretending that it's finished up there. Look at that beautiful finished section. All right, and then this section. And if you have like lots of cool colors, that's fine. But if you just have like the basic Sharpie colors, oh, you can see I smeared it a little bit right there. I'm gonna have to go back and fix that, but that's okay. All right, there we go. So I have my red done. I can always come back to it later. And I think I'm gonna wait until the end to fix that black because I'm sure I'm probably gonna do that again. So now I'm just gonna jump in with my next color. So whatever you do, it's gonna have to be a pattern. So like if you choose to color every other one of these something, okay. But if you do 3, it might not work. So just make sure, like you can practice on your sketch with colored pencil maybe, just to make sure that you know what's gonna happen where, because I'd hate for you to get like halfway through coloring and realize, uh-oh, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong. But you're just gonna keep coloring with your patterns until the whole thing is done. Now, if you're in the classroom, we are then just gonna make a cool frame and we'll hot glue gun it together and all that stuff. But if you're working on this at home, you can make a frame yourself just out of some black paper or some other paper, or you can just hang it up the way that it is. I can't send home a hot glue gun to you, so that's not gonna work, okay? But I'm just mainly looking for this design uploaded to your classroom, okay? And make sure that you've got 5 colors and your pattern fills the whole piece of paper. All right, so that's all you got to do. If you have any questions, just let me know.